Hey everyone, for this Wednesday lesson, we're going to be downloading Quixel Mixer and doing a modeling of Oz and a little bit of texturing in the Quixel Mixer. So please go to quixel.com. The link is up here. And you want to go to Products, click on Mixer. You want to select the Download for Free tab. Then when you install this, on your computer and you open it up, you will have to use your Epic Games account. So just go to unrealengine.com and then just create a login. So go to sign up, sign in. Don't have an Epic Games account, sign up, and sign up with email. Just enter in your details. And then when you log into Quixel Mixer, when you open up the application, over here, you open up the application, sign in with your Epic Games account. So for this lesson, I've just enabled screencast keys. So at the bottom left here, you can see what buttons I press. I'll start with a blank scene. So to create the vase, I'm going to press Shift A. I will create a UV sphere, and I'll change the segments to 16. Then you want to press 7 on your numpad to go to top view. Press tab to go into edit mode. Double tap A to deselect everything. Press C to select. Go to your circle selection mode. Click on this face select mode over here where my cursor is. Then you want to circle select those faces over there. Extrude it up. Press E to extrude. And then press S, Z, and 0 to flatten the top. Then now you want to select these top faces, or if you already have them selected, you have to press E to extrude, but don't extrude it up, just press escape straight away. And then press S to scale. And it will scale it out like this, so let's scale it out about so much. Press E again to extrude. And then you have made the top bit of your vase. Then I want to go back into object mode. I want to right click and click on Shade Smooth. I want to press number 1 on the numpad. I want to press Z to go into this tab, go to wireframe. I want to press B for box select, left click and drag to select all of these bottom bits here. And then I want to deselect the faces at the top by just pressing B and holding B for the box select, and then hold Shift to deselect stuff. So yeah, you deselect stuff by holding Shift. So I'm just undoing all that. Then I want to go back into solid view. I want to scale this only in width. I don't want to scale it in height, so to do that you press S, Shift, and Z. And it scales it out a bit like that. Now I want to have a bit of a curve from the top to the bottom here, so we're going to use proportional editing for that. So in edit mode, I want you to press Ctrl R, add in 5 edge loops. So if you hover your mouse over these edges, you should add 5 edge loops. And then you want to go up to the top here, enable proportional editing, or you can press 0 on the numpad, 0 on your keyboard. Then Alt select this edge here to select the entire row. And now when you scale this, you can see it moves the others in proportional based on these categories here. So if you select this drop down over here, you get sphere, root, inverse, sharp, linear, constant, random. If you select random, you can see how it moves it all randomly. but we don't want that, so just keep smooth as the default setting. When you press S to scale it, see you get the circle. If you scroll with the scroll wheel, you increase the influence radius, so I want it to be influenced about so much. You know, if it's influenced too little and it doesn't affect the ones above, and if it's too much and affects too much, so have the circle about that size. So, and then I don't want to scale this in height. I only want to scale it in width or circumference because it's a circle. So press S, Shift and Z again, and then you scale it like that. What you can also do is select this edge over here, double tap G to slide. That's just to slide it close to the other edge, like that. I'm just going to also scale this by pressing Shift S, Shift and Z, and then I'll just scale down the influence radius so it doesn't influence the other ones. This is just so there's a smoother curve. There's a bit of a harsh curve here as well, so my influence radius is small so it doesn't move the other ones. And then I will press F, Shift and Z to scale those. So now there's a kind of a nice fall off. Now to add even more of a smooth and to get rid of these horrible smooth shading options, go on the right hand side here with my cursor is, click on this blue spanner, click on Add Modifier and go down to Subdivision Surface. Now when you increase the viewport levels to 2, and now you can see that stuff has been smoothed nicely. If you go into edit mode, you can see this is what the original mesh looks like, and this is what your subdivision surface mesh looks like. You can turn it off on the right hand side here on your modifiers panel by selecting this computer icon, or you can see what it looks like in edit mode by selecting this on cage icon. So now you can see how everything conforms. Let's just turn that off though, because I do not like that. So normally on the top of your vase it should have harder edges. So the way you can do that is you can add edge loops. So by pressing Ctrl R, add an edge loop, place that, drag it up, press Ctrl R, place that, drag it down. You can select this by holding Alt and left clicking, double tap G to bring it down, and then now you see it has a harder edge there. And let's give this bit here a bit of a harder edge as well. So I'm just going to place an edge loop on this angle here, and I'm going to turn the modifier up quickly, and I'll select this edge and I'll just double tap G to just slide that edge up a little bit, then I'll apply the modifier back on. So got a bit of a smoother transition there, and you got some nice smooth transitions over here with your vase. Now to make the hole in the middle that goes down, press 7 on the numpad again, top view, go into edit mode, go to face select mode, press C for the circle select this, and then just press E to extrude, and then you see that it should go down like that. If you have a problem that, for example, your mesh comes through, that's normally because you brought it down too much, and the way you fix that is press Z, go into wireframe mode, so then I'll just press 1 on the numpad, and then you want to conform your inner vase to these outer lines here, so you have that hollowness inside it. But you want to have some thickness because it is a vase and it's not just going to be really thin. So the way we can do this is press S, Shift and Z to scale, and then you want to move stuff down with G and Z, and then you want to press E to extrude stuff down. So that's how we're going to move it along the silhouette of the shape. So let's just press G and Z to move it up, press E to extrude and G to bring it, and Z to move it down. Press Shift S, press S, Shift and Z to scale it in circumference. Then press E to extrude down again. S, Shift and Z to scale it in circumference. E to extrude it down. And each time I extrude down, I lock it into the Z axis. So press S, Shift and Z to scale it in that axis. E to extrude it down while pressing Z and pressing Z. Scale it. Bring it down. Scale it. Bring it down. Then this time you want to turn off your proportional editing because you see it's affecting this ones on the side here. So just press on 0. Press O on the number pad or press on the icon up here. S, Shift and Z to scale it inwards a little bit. E to extrude down, S, Shift, Z. E to extrude down. Then S, Shift, Z. So now you see you have your inner mesh. And then you have your outer mesh. So now if you go back to solid view, and you go out of edit frame, you go out of edit mode, now you see that there is a hollowness inside your bars. So yeah, if you want, you can play around with the shape of this. To do that, I would just go into face select mode. I would go into either press 1 or press 3 on the numpad to lock to a left view or the front view, and then I would just box select stuff. So box select the top here, turn on proportional editing, and then just press Shift S, Shift and Z, and then now you can scale your mesh, and you can move it, and you can change the silhouette and the proportions to how you want. You can also go in here and you can select individual edges in edge select mode, and you can scale these, or however you want. So it's your choice to what your model wants to look like. There's a bit of too much of a slope here, so I'm gonna go in here, press Ctrl R, add another edge loop, get a bit of a stronger edge on the side there, and I'll also just decrease the strength of these edges here by just selecting it and double tapping G. And I'm going to turn off my proportional editing so it doesn't affect the other ones. So yeah, right now I'm going to save this. I'll just save it to my desktop. So once you've got the shape, obviously if you don't have, I would recommend watching the video maybe a couple of times if you don't have the shape, because it's pretty important for the next bit, which is the UV unwrapping. So to texture stuff, you have to UV unwrap it first, and the way we do that is select your mesh while you're in object mode. So not in edit mode, be in object mode, apply your modifier. Now you see if you go into edit mode, you have all these points now. As you have extra geometry, and you want to UV unwrap this. So at the top here, for the workspace with our mouses, select UV editing. Now I'm just going to press T with my mouse in the viewport to close this, and I'm going to press T to close that one on the UV editing side, and I'm going to press N with my mouse on the side to close the UV editing side over here. So these panels are dependent on each viewport. So each viewport has their own panels, and you can just press T or you can press N to close them. You can move around on this by just zooming in and out, and then holding down the middle mouse button, and you can move it around. So I'm going to move mine to about there, and if you click in this line over here in the middle, you can move it across. So I'll move it across to about there. Zoom in a little bit. Yeah, so now we can start UV unwrapping. So go to edge select mode, go to the bottom of your mesh, select this edge here at the bottom, or one of the edges at the bottom, and now you want to follow this line all the way into the middle here over that side. So yeah, you can either press Alt and a left click on the edge to follow it all the way to that side, or if that isn't working for you, you can select the edge and hold down Control, and then whenever you hold down Control, it finds the shortest path to which edge you click on. So yeah, while you're holding on Control, you just want to follow this line. Just follow the line, holding down Control each time you click. You don't have to hold down Control when you're moving around, just only each time you click. So just hold down Control when you click for it to follow the shortest path. You can go inside your mesh here, holding down Control, and then just go to that edge over there. So now this line goes all the way around your model from either side. Then you want to make this into a seam, so you press Ctrl E, mark seam. You have this red line now, so this is your seam. So a seam is just a cut. So imagine that you take a scissors and you just cut a hole over here, and then there'll be a gap over here, so you can lay this flat on like the floor or something. So yeah, it's like folding a piece of paper into a cylinder. If you take a flat piece of paper and you roll it up and it becomes a cylinder, and then you stick it together with sticky tape so it conforms to that cylinder all the time, and then you take a scissors and you cut through where the sellotape is, and then your piece of paper unfolds again flat. That's basically what you want to do for your UV unwrapping. So here is where you have the cut, and you want this to fold open so it's flat on your grid on this side. So, and also another thing to think about is distortion with your textures. You don't want your textures to be too distorted. So now you want to select this edge over here. Select the edge where the top starts. So the top starts around about there. Control E, mark that as seam. I'm going to select this edge over here. Control E, mark that as seam. Then I want to select this edge over here. Control E, mark that as seam. And I want to select this edge inside here. Control E, mark that as seam. Then I am going to select this edge over here, and I'm going to select this edge over here. Just by holding down Alt, you select the entire row, and by holding Shift, you can select multiple edges. So yeah, remember, you only have to hold down Shift or Alt when you actually do the operation. You don't have to hold it down while you're moving around. So then I'm going to press Ctrl E, mark those seams. And I'm going to do the same for the inside. So I'm inside my bars now. I'm going to make this bit here seam, and I'm going to make this bit over here a seam. So I'll mark those two edges seams. And then now when you select everything, you press U, unwrap. Now you have your unwraps on this side. So yeah, you can press L on your keyboard to select the island, and whichever, yeah, that's when you have it all selected. If you don't have your mesh selected, then you can't see them. So you have to have your mesh selected, or if you go onto your mesh and you select a face, you can see where it corresponds up on your UVs. So this face here is this face here on the UVs. So if you are in face select mode and you press L on the keyboard, like hovering over a part of your mesh, you can see the bits that are kind of broken into sections. So the seams cut it into sections. So yeah, if I hover over this section and I press L, it selects this row. If I hover over this section, I press L, it selects that. If I hover over here and I press L, it selects that. So the seams cut it into kind of groups. And then now you can see it on your UV panel over here. So this bit here is this bit here. This bit here is this bit here. This bit on the inside here is this bit there. So you can move these around, press L to select them. You can press G to move them around, you can press R to rotate them. But this is a decent job right now. So once you've done that, you want to preview what a texture would look like to make sure that there isn't any stretching or any problems with your UVs. So the way you do that, go out of edit mode to object mode on this panel here. Click new on this panel over here. Just name this to test. Don't worry about this. Go down to generated type, click on blank, and choose color grid. And click OK. It creates this color grid. Then on the right side here in your viewport, just press N to get rid of that panel if it's open. Click on the viewport shading tab here. Now you're in viewport shading, and now you can apply textures. So select your mesh, go down to the material tab over here, click on new, call this vase, go to base color, click on this little yellow dot here, then click on image texture under the second column. Then next to new you have this little icon. You want to choose your color grid icon, which we call test. So once you choose that, you should see that your texture is applied and it looks pretty decent. There isn't too much stretching or distortion issues. And the way you see if there is any distortion issues is how these lines move. So if these lines are straight, like here they're kind of straight, then it's fine. But the moment that they start to kind of wobble or curve inwards or something like that, then there's an issue. So yeah, this is where your seam is. You see there's a cut there. And the reason it does this is because on your texture over here, you can see that this face is over here, but this face is down here. So that's why there's this visible seam, because the face here that has the texture here, that's opposite to, it's down here. So those are what seams cause. That's why you don't want to have too many seams, otherwise you have these giant cuts in your texture. And then that doesn't look realistic, obviously, when you apply a decent texture. You see here there's some distortion issues. It's kind of not going completely straight, but it's not too bad. Yeah, this is a pretty decent UV unwrap. There's a bit of distortion over here as well. So yeah, if you pretty much just put the points in the same position that I did in your solid view, then you should have a decent UV unwrap. Just go back to the material preview. So yeah, I'm going to save that. If you click on the X at the top here on your UV side, you can remove the texture, but you can still see the UVs, because sometimes the texture is just ugly. So this is just a preview texture. We can now create our own textures, so go back from UV editing, go back to layout. Then you want to select your model, click on the top here where the hierarchy is, double click where it says sphere, name this to vase, and then you want to select this, go to file, go to export, click on FBX. I'm just going to export mine to the desktop, call it vars, click on limit to selected objects, and click on apply transform in this panel here, and then you click export. So now I'm going to open up Quixel Mixer. Once it is open, you want to click on, you might, if you've installed it, you probably, and if you've installed the sample mixes, you'll probably have all these demo projects. Otherwise, just click on new project, just call it whatever. Then click on new mix. Call it whatever you want. This is going to be what? Vars. Then just change the working resolution to either 1000 or 2000. If your PC is slow, then keep it probably about a 1000, but mine's fine. Then it'll open up like this. The way you move around in here is middle mouse button to move that, Alt left click to move around, and then control middle mouse button scroll wheel to zoom in and out. Scroll wheel, zoom in and out, Alt left click to move around, and middle mouse to turn around, and Alt left click to kind of pan around your. See, if you want to load in your model now, go up on the top right side here to setup. Go to model settings, where it says type, click on plane, change it to custom mesh. Load in where you stored your FBX files. So here's my vars. Click on that, it loads in your vars. You can change the size of it. Currently it's 2.4 meters. It's a bit big, but it's fine, I guess. Then also, if you're having some lag issues, you can go to display and change the shadow resolution. You can change the GPU tessellation to 1. You can turn off anti-aliasing. You can go onto performance. You can change the viewport resolution, and you can enable all of these checkboxes here. That's just if you have some performance, if the thing is lagging. So the way that this software works is you use their photo scans. So the materials that they have online on their website, on this website. So on quixel.com/megascans, these are all of their materials and their models that they have made by taking photos of the real world. And with your Epic Games account, you have access to all of this for free. So if you download Unreal Engine, you can get all of this into Unreal Engine for free. I'll show you how to do that later, but yeah, this is nice. So if you want to add some textures to your vars now, go into layers. You'll see it says base layer. You can change the properties on here. Albedo is just your color. So if you click on this little color icon here, you can change the color. Don't worry about that just yet. So under layers, you have this first icon here that says add surface layer. Click on that. And then you'll be opened up into this panel where you should say local library. Now these are all of the scans that you have installed on your computer. If you want to download new ones, you can go to online and you can search. Let's say you want your vars to be plastic. Just search for plastic, and then you'll get either plastic 3D meshes, or you'll get some plastic materials. These circles or these spheres are materials. So you don't want to download these. You want to download these materials. So you can also go to all types and change it to surface. And then now it only shows materials. So yeah, I'm just going to go to my local library, and I'm going to choose this cracked mud wall texture that I have. And I'm going to click on that. and then it loads up the cracked mud wall texture. So that kind of looks cool, having this cracked vase. If you go to the right hand side here, you can go to placement. You can change the scale. So the scale is how big the texture appears. If the scale is really tiny, then it doesn't appear big at all. If you increase it, then it gets really high. And as you can see, when you move the scale up, it scales it based on those UVs you had. So you have these seams over here. That's because of the seams that we had in Blender over here. So those seams correlate to there. But Quixel Mixer does a pretty good job at just blurring between it, so it doesn't create any harsh lines. One thing I do want to do though is, if you increase the scale, you can see that there's quite a bit of like bumpiness here. That's because the displacement is on, and here, for example, I don't want to have displacement on. Displacement is a texture map which physically moves the vertices, and I don't want that. So I'm gonna go down here underneath height frequency and underneath albedo, madness, roughness, displacement, and I'm just gonna click on toggle visibility and just turn that off. So then we don't have any displacement. I'll increase the scale. I'll put the scale at about 1.5. I'll put the height influence at about 0.1. And I'll change the radius to around about 0.1. So this radius here under placement is how much it blurs between your seams. If you put this to 0, you see there's this harsh line here, and if you just increase that, then it blurs. So we can put it as 0.15. Yeah, so that's pretty decent texture, I would say. Yeah, you can add a new one because it's a layer based, so you can blend between different layers. If I click on another add surface layer, and I want to add on let's see what else I have here. Let's say I want to add this concrete rough texture. Click on that. Then, because the concrete rough is above the cracked mud, it'll appear before. You can click on it, and if you left click and drag, you can place it below. Just keep it above. And then if you just play around with these settings, change opacity mask to from above, and then now if you play around with the threshold, you can see that it blends between based on the height. So yeah, you can have a play around with the threshold, play around with from above or from below, and then it will blend between your model. You can change the radius as well. You can turn up preserve details. You can turn up blur underlying. You can turn down wrap underlying. You can change the color if you select the albedo here. You can change the color to what you want. I think I'll maybe have mine around about. You can select this color. You can see this if you move it away from this window here. There's a little select feature, and you can select a color. You can also play with the red, green, blue values, the hue, the saturation, the stuff like that. So I think that looks fairly decent. If you click on this height frequency, you can increase some of the height values. You can play around with the threshold. Threshold basically just means how detailed it is. If you click on the cracked mud, you're going to play with the height frequency as well. So this height just gives fake depth to your model. You see, in texturing you have PBR maps. So the texturing workflow is called photo-based realism. And you have albedo maps, you have metallic maps, you have roughness maps, you have displacement maps, normal maps, occlusion maps, and opacity maps. So the albedo is the color, the metalist map is a grayscale map, telling the computer how metal it is. So a metal would be white. If you select this color, you change it to white. Now you telling the computer that this needs to be shaded as if it's a metal, and if it's black, then it's a non-metal. With the roughness value, 1 is basically purely rough, so there's going to be no shine on your model, and black is really shiny, so you can see that there's this glossiness to it, and it kind of reflects the environment around it a little bit with this blue tint. So I'm just going to keep that around about there. So there's a bit of a shine. Yeah, see, there's a bit of a shine there. If you increase this all the way to white, there's no shine, and all the way to black is only shine. So let's have it about in the middle. Displacement, as I said earlier, actually moves the vertices. If you turn that on, you can decrease the strength. So I guess if we turn that back on and put this down to like 0.5, then that doesn't look too bad. Just gives a bit of a, I'll put this at 1 actually. Just gives a bit of a more realistic feel to your model. Then your normal map. So your normal map is this purpley bluey map, which is a texture that gives it this fake height detail. So these bumps over here that it looks like your model has is fake shadows and fake highlights that the computer simulates on your model. So these bumps that you see here and these cracks and stuff like that, that isn't actually there. And the normal map just adds shadows and highlights in the correct position so that it looks like there is. So that can just bring more detail to your mesh. And then another occlusion map. An occlusion map just adds some shadows to your particular parts of your model. So here what it looks like without the occlusion map, and then here it looks like with the occlusion map. See, the crevices are a lot darker, so it just adds some shadow there. So yeah, you can toggle these eye icons to toggle your layers. You can add more layers. You can add a liquid layer. So the liquid layer will just put like water over it. So if you wanted your vase to be a little bit damp, you could put this on and decrease the opacity. Yeah, you can just play around with. Then you can add paint layers. We can get into that later, but you can paint on details. So here, if I left click, you can see that I'm painting with my cursor. But we can get onto that later as well. So yeah, if you're happy with your model now, you play around with these settings, play around with the color, play around with the normal strength and stuff like that. Then you want to go to export. You want to choose the name of your textures, your export location. So I'll just put this onto the desktop. Then you want to change the export format to TGA and your resolution of your textures. And then you want to, this textures that you want to select for Blender is albedo. You want to disable diffuse. by just left clicking on the stick here. You want to disable specular by left clicking on the stick here. And you want to disable displacement, and you want to disable AO, which is your ambient occlusion map. So the three maps that you want for Blender is albedo, roughness, and normal. So yeah, you can just move up and down here with the scroll wheel. Oh yeah, all of these panels, if they go out of your screen, you can just scroll down it with the scroll wheel. So scroll up here with the scroll wheel and scroll down here. Click on export. Then you want to go to export three maps at the bottom over here. It should say exporting. Once it's done, go back into Blender. Then you want to click at the top here, where it says shading. Click on shading. You'll see now you kind of have a bit of a blur environment around you, and you have this node set up at the bottom here with your texture, and you have the UV workspace over here. So the way you load in your textures now is, yeah, the controls here are the same as in here. So just scroll wheel to scroll up and down, and middle mouse button to move around. So you want to click on this image texture that has this image, and you want to click on this X here. So you want to load in a new image. You want to click open. You want to go to your desktop, and you want to go to where your textures are. So you want to load in the vase albedo texture, and then here it's applied over here, and you want this line. Click on this color output here, you click left click and you drag, and you just hook it up into the space color over here. Then you want to go to add, you want to go to, or you can press Shift A, go to texture, go to image texture, and you want to create another two of these for your two other textures. Go to open, load in your roughness map, and if you just left click on these, you can move them around. Click on open, go to normal, then you want to hook up your color into your roughness, and you want to hook up your color into your normal. Now you can see that these two outputs are different colors. So the way you fix that is press Shift A, go under vector, or you can search for normal, choose normal map, and then if you just drop this under here, you can see that line highlights when you move the node over it. So just left click when it highlights and drop it in there, and then what it does here is it converts the color into a vector output. So all of these blue panels are vector outputs. So now the final step is just changing your color space for your roughness and your normal map to non-color. So you want to click on here, change it from sRGB to non-color, and then you want to click on here. So yeah, your albedo map stays in sRGB, but your roughness map and your normal map will change from sRGB to non-color. So now you have your vase inside Blender, and you have your bumps and all of your roughness set up. You can click on layout here again to go back to your layout, and then go into the material view pad up at the top left here, and then now you have your textured vase inside and outside of in Blender. So yeah, that's pretty much what we covered today. I'm going to save it again. If you want, you can go into Mixer, you can play around with the stuff more, export the textures again, and then just go back into shading and just reload, re-import the textures here into Blender. Then these will update. So that's pretty much what we covered today. Yeah. Hope you all enjoyed and will learn something new, I guess. Just don't forget how you have to download Quixel Mixer, and then if you, I don't know, if you forget certain things, just go back in the video and then just re-watch them or stuff like that. So I think next video I want to make an Unreal Engine video and how to import stuff to Unreal Engine, and we'll see how that goes. So